Sorry, guys, my microphone was off. Sorry, here I am. Sorry about that. Okay, here we are. Hey, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Sorry for that. Tonight we're going to do a different stream. There's no tea. Well, I guess maybe a little bit of tea if you like what I'm going to share with you. But it relates to me and my son. And we're going to talk about something that I do that's completely unrelated to tea, to drama, to debunking, to fraud, all of that good stuff. I am a humongous advocate for individuals with disabilities and before I started my work with doing more pseudoscience and doing a platform designed around just scammers and fraud and crime, I was really well known for disability advocacy. And that might sound weird to you, but that's where I got my start. I started writing for The Mighty in 2013. I was added as a contributor, wrote numbers, oh my God, so many articles for them about my story of raising my son who has disabilities. And from there, I sort of branched out and started expanding, started my own blog, became sort of a mommy blogger per se, but wasn't necessarily a mommy blogger, was very much just more sharing what it's like to raise a child with a disability, the realities that we face, and sort of being that voice for families like mine that are often forgotten about. I'll be very frank. Families that are raising children that are sick or have disabilities are often forgotten about, ignored, and our needs, our children's needs, are often seen as hindrances, disturbances, unflattering. You don't fit in. Your kid is a burden. You are a leech on society. Your kids are too loud, or your life is too much. And I have gone through a lot in the 6 years. I have gone through grieving. I've gone through sadness. I've gone through triumph. I've gone through my son nearly dying. We have survived 3 brain surgeries. We have survived open heart surgery. He has a partially paralyzed stomach. We have been diagnosed with hydrocephalus, gastroparesis. So many diagnoses, so many that I'm not even going to tell you all of them because you wouldn't even know what they are. He also has a diagnosis of autism, which I think is probably one of the more, I don't know, I feel like most people know someone with autism. So I can just say, you know what, my kid's autistic and this is our life. So on a day-to-day basis, we do a lot to keep him well and keep him healthy. And he has nurses that are here, and we have a lot that I do on my time offline of writing. And the reason why I'm writing and the reason why I have a YouTube channel is because I have to work from home, because my son has 13 doctors and has multiple doctor's visits nearly every month. Oh my God, in May we had 2 weeks where we had 3 doctor's appointments in a row. like 2 weeks worth. There was 3 appointments. And I think we saw 8 total doctors in the month of May. And that's kind of just like what our life has been like. He had open heart surgery a year ago. Actually, August 30th was the date that they went in to repair his heart. So we've had a lot going on. And one thing that has been very important to me is not to be considered a martyr mom. I don't share my son's information so that you feel sorry for me. I don't talk about my son so you feel sorry for him. I don't talk about my son's issues for you to tell me how sorry you are or to pity us, because we don't want pity. All we want is acceptance. And one thing that has been a humongous issue that's going on in America and the world is a insatiable and ridiculous need to ban plastic straws. Now, many of you guys will say, well, we need to ban the straws because that one picture of that turtle that had the straw in his nose was reasons why we need to get these plastic straws out of our oceans. Seems practical, right? Yeah, just ban the straws. Get rid of them. Get rid of them. We don't need them. Except there's millions of people like my son that depend on plastic straws in order to drink. Now, we'll be told consistently, you should just try the alternatives. Why don't you try these ones? Metal, bamboo, glass, silicone, acrylic, paper, pasta, or single use. Well, to which I say all of them have problems. For instance, paper and pasta are choking hazards. Metal, bamboo, glass, acrylic, and pasta are injury risks. There are the ones that are not positionable, like metal, bamboo, glass, silicone, acrylic, paper, and pasta. There's also the ones that are extremely expensive, like metal, bamboo, glass, silicone, and acrylic. And then there's the ones that are not temperature safe, which means silicone, acrylic, paper, pasta, and I would even venture to say metal. I don't know why metal's not included on there, because metal straws get extremely hot or extremely cold when you drink from them. They're not practical, they're not positionable, they're dangerous, okay? And before anyone gets in my face and tells me that I hate the environment, I will tell you that plastic straws equate to a tiny, minuscule fraction of the pollution that's in our oceans. In fact, the largest portion of pollution in our oceans is the plastic water bottle. If you truly want to make a plastic commitment to reducing the use of plastic, and now we never buy plastic water bottles. We actually lost water a couple weeks ago. There was a massive water main break because from construction, and so we only have these because of that, but we always reuse these and fill them up. But plastic water bottles are the biggest pollutants in our ocean, and they encompass the largest portion of plastic pollution on our planet. So the plastic straw, by comparison, is teeny tiny, itty bitty, minuscule. But a photo of a turtle with the plastic in their nose prompted this massive ban across the world for plastic straws, and has put this obscene obsession on being eco-friendly with straws without considering the impact on children like my son and other people that have disabilities. Now, many people need straws for many different reasons. For my son, he needs a straw for several different reasons. And before you tell me to use one of the alternatives, we've tried everyone, none of them work. And they don't work because of my son's unique issues and the unique issues we have as caregivers for him. The very first article I ever wrote on Pathios was related to the plastic straw bans and my frustration with them, because it's become increasingly more difficult for me to go out with my son and assume that the places will offer plastic straws. For instance, in this photo, this was actually on his birthday. We took him to the Mall of America. We live in Minneapolis, or we live in the Minneapolis area, sort of, not really, kind of. And before we go anywhere now, we have to pack his own cup and a straw because we never know if any place that we go will offer straws. This specific restaurant is a trendy sort of like fusion restaurant, and we only got straws for him because we asked. Otherwise, they were not offered to us, and they were black and unpositionable, which do not work for children like mine. So we purchase plastic bendy straws from Walmart or Target, and we stockpile them now because we are afraid that this trendy ban on plastic straws will make it so people stop selling them altogether. Many restaurants have already stopped carrying plastic straws, which is deplorable if you're somebody that has a disability. Many people that are disabled or have disabilities rely on plastic straws for a number of reasons, and they provide people like my son independence and inclusion in a world where he would not otherwise not be able to drink. Why? Because my son is unable to hold a cup and take the motor skills to put the cup to his mouth, and then he has oral dysphagia, which means he can't use his tongue properly, which means he can't swallow properly, which means he's a choking hazard. So he can't drink like this or he would choke. The one way that we've been able to make sure that he doesn't choke is by teaching him painstakingly with how to drink from a straw. It took my son 4 years of therapy to learn how to drink from a straw. We were elated when he was able to drink from a straw. It was the biggest, it was a massive moment for us because he would finally have some independence with drinking. We wouldn't have to always hold his cups for him. He would be able to drink with his friends. And it just made him feel like a big kid instead of having to drink from a sippy cup. So, why does it have to be positionable? Well, positionable straws are required for a lot of different reasons. But for my son, it's because of his oral apraxia. So if it's positionable, if it's bendy, like for instance here, this is a positionable one. And I just use the same straws over and over and over again. And we do wash the straws. We reuse the straws. We don't just use them one time. But it's because when it's like this, he can easily get his mouth on it. And it's hard enough for him to get a grip. But if it's like this and the cup is down here, he has to go like this, and then he has to coordinate everything. So he has to look down, coordinate, and then he can't coordinate with his tongue. So positioning, it takes that, so all he has to do is move his head forward. Positioning is important for many people with disabilities, specifically if they have fine motor issues, and a caregiver is going to has to feed them or give them their, their drinks. Positionable is important for people that are recovering from surgeries. Positionable is important for individuals that are in the hospital. My son is in the hospital a lot. Positionable is important for many different reasons, and it causes the least amount of injuries. So it definitely cuts down on the steps when it's positionable. So now the thing about it is there are millions of people like my son. My son has several reasons why we have to use the plastic straw. We've tried everything. Trust me, we've tried the metal straws. They get too hot or they get too cold or they're extremely dangerous. Metal straws are the worst option for you, and I would never recommend anyone use them. They are not heat or cold sensitive, and they are dangerous. You can choke. You can poke yourself. In fact, a woman in England died last month because she fell and she was disabled and she was carrying her cup and she had a lid on it because of her disability to keep it so it was stable because she was prone to fall. And then she had a metal straw that was coming out of it. Now, she fell, and when she fell on top of the metal straw. The metal straw impaled her left eye and pierced her brain, and she died. Plastic straws, people are pushing metal options on people with disabilities, and in her case, she was known to fall due to issues with a broken back and scoliosis, which made her legs weak. And so because of her weak legs, she fell like a pancake, her wife said, a lot. But even though she was able to purchase the plastic straws, for instance, where she lived, there's this massive push by society to shame people that need to use plastic straws. And you guys spend your time and energy trying to convince families like mine who already have shit ton of stuff on their plate, and the one damn thing that keeps our kids happy and allows them to have inclusion and accessibility in the world is the plastic straw. And you guys want to tell us a million different ways that we need to stop using it. We hate the environment and we hate our kids. And it's disgusting. And I wrote an article about it last year, and I was outraged because my son has spent such a long time trying to learn how to drink, and we are finally in a place where he can. And plastic straws have made our lives so much easier, and his life easier. And now an insatiable need to do the right thing, the trendy, cool thing to do the right thing and ban the plastic straw has impacted people around the world. And I was interviewed today by the Today Show because of the woman's story in England related to her death and how plastic straw bans impact real people. So I'm telling you, they do impact real people, and the alternatives don't work. And there's a reason why the plastic ones work. And then people will say, but then there's the positionable silicone ones. You guys, reusable straws, no matter how hard you sterilize them, cannot be sterilized. Silicone ones in particular are prone to mold and bacteria. And even the stainless steel ones can't be completely sterilized, no matter how hard you try. And for children like my son, who has a very crappy immune system and is medically fragile, it's very important that we use single-use straws so that we do not introduce any more germs into his life. So we talked today to NBC because there's not enough people speaking out about this. There's not enough people writing about this. If you search for stories about the plastic straw ban, it's all related to people that benefit from it, that think it's super cool and super trendy, and they're going to help the environment. But I want to give you some real facts about what could make a difference to give you some understandings, like just how ridiculous these plastic straw bans are in the grand scheme of things when you compare them to if you were more apt to reduce your use of plastic bottles. I'm just going to give you some facts on plastic bottles, and you'll get a cue real quick about what the real problem is here. Okay, so the alternatives, for instance, a lot of people have told us, well, you need to do the PLA bioplastics ones. They biodegrade, they're plant-based ones. They're not really. PLA bioplastics are not biodegradable. They only biodegrade in an environment with no oxygen or temperature that exceeds 140 degrees for 10 days. Few places in the world meet that requirement, and even after it biodegrades, it leaves a harmful residue of microparticles that pollute the environment, and those particles affect life at the bottom of the food chain. Then there is the bottled water. Let's talk about the bottled water. So according to a website called Ban the Bottle, we use 17 million barrels of oil annually to meet the demands of America's consumption of bottled water. The amount of oil used to make these bottles could fuel more than 1.3 million cars annually. We can power more than 190,000 homes with the same energy that we use to bottle water. According to Forbes, we will purchase 1 million bottles of water per minute around the globe daily. 91% of those bottles will end up in landfills. Forbes also estimates that with this consumption, watered bottles will mean by the 2050, there will be more weight of plastic in our oceans than fish from bottled water. Plastic bottles take an average of 400 years to decompose, And there's no sign of the planet decreasing their use of plastic bottles. There's no bigger threat to our fish and aquatic wildlife than the plastic bottle. And people think that when they're buying plastic bottled water, they're actually getting better water. Nope, you're actually not. 24% of bottled water distributed by Pepsi's Aquafina and Dasani, did you know it's tap water? It's damn tap water. You are buying tap water. Another misconception is that it's safer for consumption than tap water. Nope. Dr. Gina Solomon, who actually is a scientist for the National Resource Defense Council, she actually told the New York Times about this last year. And she says there's no reason to believe that bottled water is safer than municipal tap water. In fact, public drinking water is much more stringently monitored by the EPA than bottled water is by the FDA. And data suggests that the water we consume from bottled water is the same as what we get from the tap. However, the tap water we drink has better regulations. And there's a significant financial benefit for you to drink that damn water from the tap, because if you drink 8 glasses of water a day from the tap, you're going to spend 49 cents a year. Conversely, if you drank 8 bottles of water a day, you would spend $1,400 a year. The plastic straw is a tiny, minuscule problem in the grand scheme of things. It encompasses a tiny fraction of your issues when it relates to water. So if you really want to make a difference, you guys, please consider going to a source that impacts fewer people in terms of now, here's the thing, you guys. If you're in an area like, say, Flint, Michigan, that hasn't had safe water for a really long time, of course, you will need to use bottled water. But if you're in a municipality that has safe to drink water, that has all of that, there is zero reason why you shouldn't just refill your cup multiple times a day, and you will create less waste for our planet than a plastic straw. Look at the size comparison of this and tell me which one you think is more problematic, knowing that every single minute 1 million bottles of these are purchased. Every minute. We do things because we think they're trendy. We do things because somebody online says, oh, poor turtles, they got a straw up their nose. We need to ban the water or the straws. And it's really, really, really not okay. Yeah, David, that's actually an interesting point, because in parts of Mexico, for instance, the water sanitation is so poor that you would need to drink bottled water. However, in the United States, there are very few places in this day and age that has unsafe drinking water. There are only a few parts of the country that are dealing with unsafe water. Flint, Michigan has been in a complete it's been ridiculous what they've been facing in relates to their bottled water. But, most water is fine. I have been accused that people always say oh, you're online and you're just you must be drinking alcohol from that cup. Nope, it's literally just water. I drink probably 5, 6, 7 of these glasses a day. This is 32 ounces, I think. I'm a humongous water drinker. I always refill the cup. I use the same cup every single day. I wash it, and I use a straw usually 3 to 4 days, and then I toss it. There are ways that you can be a responsible consumer and not impact the environment and not take away things from people that need them. And this plastic straw ban has made it so that my family, when we go out, we have to plan everything ahead of time now. We have to make sure that we bring his straws with us. We have to make sure that we have the right cups for him. We have to make sure that when we're buying straws, that we buy multiple containers of straws, because we fear that some manufacturers or companies will stop selling straws. And we've seen some stores completely stop selling straws. And it's scary. It's scary for children like my son. Hi, Dova. Welcome to the stream. So there's a lot of things that you can do, you guys. And so my goal with this stream was to say there are times when I will share my son's life with people. There are times when I will use his story to advocate and change and do things. And there's a part of my life that is completely unrelated to the tea and unrelated to the drama. And something that is so important to me is that when you're making decisions as a consumer, that you always consider where this information is coming from and do your research. Just because someone tells you that plastic straws are bad, consider the source, consider where the information is coming from, and really get into and understand what the real problems are. Another humongous way that you can reduce your carbon footprint and help our oceans by reducing the plastic in our oceans is by... Why is that even showing up on there? That's weird. Is by, oops, sorry. I got totally distracted by my live feed. Is by not using plastic bags. The second most contributing issue for plastic consumption in the United States, plastic bags. Plastic bags and plastic water bottles, they make more pollution than a plastic straw. A plastic straw, I think, is less than 0.01% of all of the pollution out there for plastic. And people will say, oh, but it's just an easy thing for us to let go. So we'll really be helping the environment by doing this. You actually won't be. You would be better off to just get rid of your plastic water bottles or your plastic bags if you want to do what's something good for the environment. My son is both, my son has disabilities, and then my son he's medically fragile, so he's both. I think a lot of kids that are like my son are both. He's had a lot of surgeries. He had open heart surgery. He's had multiple brain surgeries. He's got a feeding tube. So, yeah. Anyways, I am really excited that NBC reached out and wanted to feature my son and sort of talk about what are the frustrations that families like mine feel. And I just want to remind you guys that when you're talking with other people that are dealing with a disability or dealing with something that you don't understand, it's not helpful to offer suggestions that you think would be a better alternative. That's not helpful at all. It's actually super insulting because you're insinuating that the person doesn't understand or doesn't know or hasn't tried other options. Most people that are in our position, we've tried everything. We have been ridiculed. We have been told that we don't like the environment. We are told that we are wasteful. We are made to feel like we are bad parents because we're doing this. We are told so many nasty things because we're using plastic straws. We're made to feel guilty. It's disgusting. And if you're telling us oh, you could just use something else, interesting. You think we haven't tried that before? Don't be so basic, okay? Really think about what you're saying before you offer things to someone who's dealing with a debilitating disability that impacts their ability to drink. Drinking and eating is something that we all need to be able to do to survive, and my son can't eat enough or drink enough to survive on his own, so he has a feeding tube. And the only thing that we can do for him that gives him some sense of normalcy is allow him to use a plastic straw to drink. Yes, and parental shaming is so disgusting. And recycling is kind of a joke. A lot of times with recycling, they're just burning the plastic, which is just putting it back in the environment. Honest to God, the best thing that you can do is reuse things as much as you can, reduce the consumption of what you are using, and just be more resourceful in what you're using. So like I said, I use these plastic straws. We wash them. and then we keep them as long as we can tell that, and I'll reuse them. And then we try to sterilize them as much as possible. So it's not like my son is using a single plastic straw and we're like tossing it away. But we also don't use bottled water. I said we have that because we lost, we had a water main break, so we had no water for over a day. And don't use plastic bags. Or if you use plastic bags, reuse the plastic bags. We use plastic bags for everything. There's so many things that you can do, and there's like use paper bags, or buy a bag that you can bring to the store that you can put stuff in. When in doubt, I always try not to get a bag if I don't need one. I use my purse. I have a big purse where I can put stuff in, or I buy big totes if at all possible. Reuse and reduce. Correct makeup user. So I'm excited for my son's story to be told. I'm nervous because I know when I wrote the story last year, and I've done 2 stories on the plastic straw ban, I got a lot of negative feedback. I was told that I was a terrible mother. I was told that I didn't understand. I was given every alternative. And I'm just telling you guys, like, there's so much more to the story. And when people are making one of the questions they asked me when NBC interviewed me today was, do you think that individuals with disabilities are considered when decisions like this are made? And I said, absolutely not. Individuals with disabilities are ever considered when stuff like this happens. And we never consider how it impacts the most vulnerable people who rely on these methods for drinking. It's really, and if you think about it, everyone in the world should have equal access to the world. You go to a restaurant and they don't expect you to bring your own fork. So if someone's only means of drinking is a straw, a restaurant should have a straw to accommodate their customers. Exactly, JW. So there's 2 populations here that rely on plastic straws, the elderly and people with disabilities. And it's a necessity. And disposable ones are important. So it's, I'm excited, but I'm nervous. And they said the story's supposed to drop in a couple days. The woman I spoke to was super nice. I gave them a couple photos of my son. They said that the story may be featured on NBC News. I had to consent to allow them to use the photos if they choose to in a news broadcast. It's insane. Like, for one part, I'm like, oh, this is cool. And the other part, I'm like, holy crap, my kid's going to be like all over the NBC News. But I think it's an important, I would rather my story be out there for my kid related to advocacy and helping people realize how their decisions impact others, rather than look at me, feel bad for us, look at how great of a mom I am. I'd much rather people know us for how we want to help educate people and make people more understanding of people that live with a loved one who has a disability or who has a disability themselves. And I will always be that voice. I am an able-bodied human being, and I have a ton of people on my channel and on my Pathios column that follow me that have disabilities, because I am always sensitive to their needs. I always am listening. I try to include their voices in my thoughts. When I'm doing my advocacy, I'm always speaking to people about that. And it's something that's just so important to me. Thank you, Kelly. Yep, I reuse plastic straw too as makeup. I was very excited about that too, Emily, because the woman that interviewed me, I said, I've been interviewed by a lot of really big publications over the years with my work, okay? And so I'm always whenever I'm interviewed, I'm always like, what's your angle? because is this going to paint me in a good light or is it going to paint us in a bad light? You know what I mean? We've been featured in really big outlets, and I always need to understand that. And she said their angle is to spark the conversation so that people stop thinking about this ban from an ecological perspective and really consider the human impact and the real people that these types of choices impact, and how the voice of the individual with the disability is rarely, if ever, considered, and how these knee-jerk reactions, like what's happened with the turtle and banning the plastic straw, can result in this insatiable, like incessant need to use, for instance, metal straws, which ultimately for someone with a disability is like the least safe option to have. And then it caused a woman to die in England. And the coroner actually literally listed the dangers of using a metal straw. The coroner literally said, like, metal straws should always be used with care because of their how fixed they are, because having the ability to bend and give will cause fewer injuries. And then also they should never be used with lids. They can burn you. They can make you super cold. They're just pretty dangerous, you guys. Yeah, I mean, balloons. Who needs balloons? Paper dissolves, dreadlocks. And it's a choking hazard, and same with cardboard. It dissolves. Did you see this list? So paper is a choking hazard, and it's a not positional option, and it's not high temperature safe. Pasta options are choking hazard, injury, not positionable, not high temperature safe. So there's lots and lots and lots of issues. And yeah, like I have friends that have children with autism, and if you have a child that has like oral fixations, a paper straw would literally be the worst option because it will get mushy and then you can choke on it and swallow it. And a lot of people that have disabilities have issues with like their motor control, and so they're gonna they might have put too much saliva on it. It's just they don't stand up. So I'm nervous. I'm excited. I guess they said the story will be up maybe today or tomorrow or the next day. I'm just really excited that something that I have been screaming about for a year is getting noticed. I am so grateful they found my article. They actually found my article and reached out to me, and they said, hey, we saw that you were speaking about this, and we would love to talk to you because you've advocated for this. Yeah. And some of you guys have asked that I do some more personal streams about my life. So this stream is related to that. So I hope you guys have learned something and maybe can think about maybe being a little bit more compassionate, and how choices that seem practical for everyone don't always mean they are for everyone. And how we really should not forget about the people like my son who are already like forgotten about. Like literally, like nobody in the world really cares about kids with disabilities. And I'm going to be frank, are really only convenient when you're selling a story. Otherwise, or if a company is promoting something, or if they can make your kid a poster child for something. Otherwise, society literally could care less about kids with disabilities. So unless it's like an organization that feels like they're going to give back to a kid and give them some crappy like toy, or they can host like a dumb event for them because they think that that's what the kids want. But other than that, like in day-to-day life, our kids are ignored. Our kids don't have friends. Our kids are not treated well. Our kids are bullied. And so I'm just always going to be speaking out about that kind of stuff, and just speaking for the families like mine that are on the fringes and ignored by everybody else, and ensure that nobody's voices are quiet, nobody is ignored, and, you know, just remind people that there are so many people out there that need compassion and understanding. Yeah, I mean, I think that's fine if you want to, if you don't want to use a straw, that's fine. I don't have disabilities, but I have teeth sensitivities. And so a straw for me is so I don't have to feel the hot or cold on my teeth. Um, and a lot of people with heat sensitivities to their teeth also drink from straws. Like if I am drinking really cold water, I can't drink it just from this or it hurts my teeth. Same with hot. So straws work for me, but I reuse them as much as possible. So that's the skinny on this. I will keep bringing you some personal stories every once in a while, but just be kind to people and be nice to people. And remember that just because something seems like a good idea, really think about who it's going to impact. And if it's going to impact someone, then really, and then if it does impact someone and you don't understand it, don't offer them solutions or suggestions or tell them that they're doing things wrong or make them feel bad. Um, so yeah. Yeah, my son, we start school this fall, so I'm not looking forward to the bullying part, but we'll see. All right, you guys, I am going to be done for right now, but thank you so much, and I'll let you know when the story goes live, and just be nicer to people. Bye.